Welcome back to our series, Meet the Chief. I have the privilege of being here with Chief Master Sergeant Brian Hornbuckle at the Band of the West at Lackland Air Force Base. So as we start, just tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what did you do before joining the Air Force?
Thank you. First, I want to say congratulations on you making Staff Sergeant. I think that list came out a couple weeks ago. So it's hard to believe that it's been over 2 years since you auditioned here at Lackland and got into the band and already about to be a Staff Sergeant. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I'm from Huntington, West Virginia, which is right on the border of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. And that's where I grew up, graduated high school there, and actually started college at the local university, Marshall University. I started out as a physical therapy major, and then ended up liking music and switching over my last semester there. A good friend of ours, mine, Bill Renzi, convinced my twin brother, Michael Hornbuckle, and I to come audition at the University of Kentucky, because he's actually from Kentucky. I think Latin Woods, Kentucky, home of Billy Ray Cyrus, by the way. And we all went out there auditions and got scholarships to go to Kentucky. So that's where we went in '93. So I ended up studying, graduating there with a Bachelor of Education degree and studying with Terry Everson, who's at Boston. Great trumpet player, phenomenal trumpet player, and a great person. And then from there, I went to the University of Louisville, where I studied with Dr. Michael Tunnell. Did a lot of jazz work with Dr. Jerry Tolson, John LaBarbera, and actually now I think it's called the J. Abersol School of Jazz Studies, because he actually lived right across the bridge in Indiana. So saw him a lot there as well. After I graduated, I moved back to West Virginia. Not a whole lot of playing opportunities. I was a manager at a credit card company, and then Verizon, the corporation, not wireless at that point. So that's pretty much what I did around the graduation time.
So how did you hear about the Air Force band job, and what made you join?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the military at that point, but we did a New Year's Eve gig with the Jerry Tolson Big Band in French Lick, Indiana, home of Larry Bird. Not a whole lot there, but there is a resort, and he would play that resort New Year's Eve gig every year. And a friend of mine from Louisville that I went to graduate school with, Tommy Money, was a trumpet player who had just got hired on the Scott. And he told me and Michael that, man, this thing would be fantastic for you guys. You would love it. And luck so happened that within 6 months, there were auditions for trombone and trumpet. So we started practicing a lot to get our chops back in shape, because it had been about 2 years since we had played full time. And he went out to Scott. He won the audition out there on trombone. I went to Wright Pat. I won the audition on trumpet, and Colonel Sirix is the one who hired me and brought me into Wright Pat. That was back in the 2000.
So tell me about that transition into the Air Force. Obviously, you shipped to basic training, and tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did. It's funny that before joining the Air Force, we used to do this community band in Charleston. That had come into play a little later. So we went down to MEPS, and there ended up being 3 of us guaranteed band and flew. We didn't know each other. Well, 2 of us knew each other, of course, because of me and Michael. But the third, we didn't know each other going, and we flew out somewhere. It was a little plane, a little prop plane. So if you've ever been on a tiny plane, propeller, you spin it around, kind of like a rubber band type plane, and like a puddle jumper, I guess they call it in some places. But it got us to wherever we were going. I don't even know where we flew to. But I just actually found my records, and for some reason, I was like the head of the 4-man team that was leading there. It said on my orders. Have no idea why, but I was. So we ended up flying somewhere. Funny story about that. Master Sergeant John Garcia, who also was from south of Charleston, West Virginia, he was on that plane, and he tells a story of a person that he sat beside, who this is her first time flying, and she was kind of nervous on the takeoff, and she was asking him about, hey, what are you doing? He said, me and a bunch of these guys are going to basic training to be in the Air Force. And she freaks out and says, those are the planes that crash whenever they have groups of people and teams. But we made it. She made it. It was okay. So eventually we got to Lackland. I think we flew out on the 28th of August and landed on the 29th. And I still remember Coach Popovich from the Spurs Air Force Academy grad, happened to be in the airport. I was a huge sports fan. And I passed by him on the way through, couldn't say anything because they had already started yelling like immediately. As soon as you get off the plane, pretty much get here, get that, get on the bus, don't talk. They brought us to Lackland on these old white buses, which I still think they use because they don't have air and heat half the time. I'm joking about that. But They were old white buses at the time. They brought us there, and actually, this building I'm in right now was our reception center back in 2000. You still see the dots on the back where they told you to pick them up, put them down, pick them up, put them down, and that started my Air Force career. And I do remember one thing about when I got in to the building, to the building, the MTI for the band was there, and they asked you, who played instruments, and obviously they knew we're guaranteed band, and we were supposed to be coming. But he says, "What's your name?" I said, "Brian Hornbuckle." Reporting statement, Brian Hornbuckle. He said, "Spell it." So I spelled my last name, and then I started to spell Brian. He said, "I know how to spell Brian." So it started that way. You can get that right away.
So from trainee to chief in the same building.
Yes, yes.
Now, how does that assignment there at Lackland, how does that shape the band? I mean, do you guys do work with the basic training or support AETC headquarters there?
Now we do support ATC headquarters, but we don't actually do anything with BMT at all. That's the 37th Training Wing, where they fall under MTIs. Now you probably know that we have two, I believe, right now, 3 and 1 bandsmen as MTIs over there. But right now they don't have the German Bugle Corps going, so they're pushing regular flights. They may or may not have band people in them, but they're pushing regular flights right now. So different hours, longer hours for them right now.
Mm. So you started there at Lackland, obviously, and then tell me about your other assignments. So you started at Wright Pat, but what were the assignments after that, and did you have a favorite?
I did. I started at Wright Pat, and I was there for 9 years, which is not bad because it was only 3 hours from my hometown, so I can get home, especially when the kids are born. The grandparents can come up, and we can go back pretty frequently. So I just kept testing, getting promoted out of the next assignment. I wanted to go to Germany, got promoted out of that. I wanted to go to Alaska. I think someone Epcot it, so they stayed there a little longer. Finally, I got the opportunity to go to Hawaii, and that was in 2010 is when I landed. I think I left Wright-Patterson. It was like maybe freezing, maybe 0. I know it's below freezing, so maybe 20 degrees. And I got there. It was almost 80 degrees when I got to Hawaii. So I gained 60 degrees, and they were telling me it was a cool evening. And I was like, no, I was sweating at the time because your blood is picking up a little bit from the winter weather. Very, very different. And Hawaii is probably my favorite assignment because again, perfect weather year round. You have beaches on base. Some of the nicest beaches in the world are right there on the Hawaiian Islands.
So from Hawaii to
back to Lackland.
Straight back to Lackland.
Oh yeah.
I know the PACAP band is very busy even now. Were you able to travel? I know they travel quite a few places. Can you tell me a little about the places you were able to go?
We did. We went to Australia a few times, Malaysia, Singapore, and some other places around that area. It was cool. One of the nicest places we went to, because it's so unique, is Wake Island. And if you're not familiar with Wake Island, right now it's mainly a refueling station. That's where I realized how big like a C5 was inside, because we took them a fire truck, an ambulance, and something else, and we had all kinds of room for all our musical gear and stuff like that. So we would go with the PACAF commander there once a year and perform. There's probably only about 100 people on the island. Most of them are doing random work, some military. Had a great time performing for them. They really love the music. They don't get a lot of live music coming there, except when the bands come there. They do have karaoke, so they like doing that. So we had some fun doing karaoke also. That was cool. And also hit all the Hawaiian Islands pretty much, most of them. Everyone has their own unique character, and it was just awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. So at what point in your career did you decide you wanted to make chief? Is that something you always, knew you wanted to shoot for, or was that something that dawned on you later?
I didn't think about that at all. Basically in basic training, I do remember I was stuck in the St. Louis airport for 9 hours coming from basic training, kept getting bumped off flights. My girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, was sitting sick in the airport at Dayton waiting on me. The time she thought I was going to be there 9 hours earlier. She keeps falling asleep in the corner. I had to keep paging her, saying, no, I didn't make it in. I didn't make it. Eventually I made it though. But while I was sitting in the airport, Chief from Lackland actually talked to me for a while, and he laid out a bunch of steps. And I can remember him 20 years ago, but it's been a long time. But he said, if you do all these things this way, eventually in 10 years, you should be able to make Master Sergeant. And I followed some of those steps along the way. I've also had the opportunity of several other chiefs taking me on the wing. Chief Rodney Perry, Command Chief Clint Allen, tell me there. But under 10 years, I did make Master Sergeant. So chiefs, if they tell you something about how to do something, I believe them.
So as you progress through the ranks, how do you think that changed you both as a trumpet player, as a musician, and then also as a person and a leader?
Well, I guess going back a little bit to your other question, and it leads to that too. When I did make Master, General Gary North was the PACAP commander. His wife, Miss Shelley North, was a former school teacher, super nice person, very involved. She told me that when her husband had to make the decision, on moving forward with his career, he made it his decision based on that he wanted to help people. And that's the biggest thing for me going forward with senior and chief, was trying to help people, because there's no roadmap to get there. And that's one of the things that helped grow me as a Air Force person too, is that the more you help people, the more knowledge that you have, and you can help more people, whether it's in your career field or outside of your career field. It doesn't really matter. That's one of the big things that I've learned along the way, is that, it's really not about you. I get more excited now, even before I make chief, to see other people get promoted to master and senior, even staff sergeant, than I do myself, because that's what the goal is, to grow future leaders. And as far as on trumpet, when I first got to Wright Pat, I hadn't played, again, full time in 2 years at that point. So my first supervisor, Jay Halpin, I think the other section members were, I think, Lawrence Wiley at the time, and Eric Nord. Major Jason Plosh was then in basic training. He was going to be A1 Steve Jason Plosh at the band. So that's who started there. And the first group gig I remember doing was with a pop group. I flew in on Monday to Wright Pat. I was on Friday up doing TDY. So that started my growth very rapidly to get that. We played a lot of concert band. And I've told people before, we probably did 2-a-day rehearsals every day for like probably 4 hours of rehearsal every day. So it was pretty much musically we're on autopilot, but you can make, note-wise we're on autopilot, but musically you can make a whole lot more sense because you knew it so well. But I was featured as a jazz soloist both with the jazz band and the concert band, R&B solos. A good friend of mine, Master Sergeant retired J.P. Banks. I remember him coming from, when he came from Travis to Ohio, that opened up a lot of the R&B pop stuff, which helped me a whole lot along the way too. So everything combined, and then getting into Hawaii and doing a pop band full time, then a combo on the side, that just opened up everything to me. So I was hitting everything from a brass quintet at certain times of the year, all the way through jazz band, jazz combo, pops group with horns, concert band. It opened up a whole lot. And then there's always taps, which we all know is something that we do as buglers in the Air Force.
Yeah, that's something. It's 24 notes. Some people would say that's easy, and I wouldn't say enjoy is probably the wrong word. But I'm always honored. It's always rewarding to be able to be there for the family and to render that. But yeah, it's some of the most nerve-wracking notes you ever play. I always have to slow my breathing and really be on task for those. So it kind of dumps right into my next question. If you could distill it down, what is it that Air Force bands offer to the Air Force and to the nation? What are some of our greatest rewards, and what are our greatest challenges?
Challenges are, and I'll give you an example. When I went to the NCO Academy, the command chief from the 88th Air Base Wing there at Wright Pat told me, Hornbuckle, you have to prove that the band is relevant to the rest of the career field. To the rest of the Air Force. And that was my entire goal he told me to do for NCOA. He said, don't worry about DG. He said, you got to make sure that you're relevant. And the same thing happened at Senior NCO Academy. People question what our knowledge base, but by us doing our own operations, our own finance, our own supply, basic acquisitions, I had a senior master sergeant there, I think it was from Security Forces, said I would have never known a band person could be involved with any of these conversations. But that's kind of things we have to do for our airmen all the way up, is grow them that way. So they have a wide base of knowledge for everything. And as far as, another story I have is from General North again. We were on Lanai, which is patio for you non-Hawaii types. He explained, we were playing a jazz song, and I think it was the delegation from the South Korean Air Force, I believe, was there. And they asked him, how much do these guys get paid? And he said, they get paid just like every other person for their rank in the Air Force. He goes, how much more do they get paid? And he used that as an example that he said, this is the level that we train all of our Air Force members. If our musicians are this much better than your musicians, we train our crew chiefs, all those things at the same high level. So he was basically using us as an example to show a level of maturity and professionalism that the Air Force brings across the board. And not often do bands get used in that situation.
That's cool. That's cool. Kind of to sum it up, what would you say would be your top tips or words of advice for any young airmen coming in the bands and in any career field?
And mine will be across the board. Doesn't matter if it's a band or not. Practice your craft. If you're a bandsman, practice your craft. If you're a dental hygienist, practice your craft. You can always get better. You can always learn. Learn from the people that are around you. I had a lot of great supervisors and mentors along the way. A lot of great people, not trumpet players and other sections, lead you in a way to grow you, both professionally and at your craft. So, and then get out and volunteer because that's how you meet people. You get a whole lot more done if someone's actually seeing you face to face. Get out and volunteer for things at the wing, at the headquarters. If you're in AFSA, the Airmen's Council, the NCO Council, the senior top three, any of those things are great because networking is a key. You should be able to call someone on your base, and you'll see this when you go to ALS. It's great that you do ALS at the base that you're at because you'll be able to call these people when they're staff sergeants and tech sergeants and say, hey, can I get this done? And they know who you are. The more likely to get things done if you actually know who you are and you really, really need it. Don't just use your contacts just off the cuff, but if you really need them, they'll be there for you. Get out there and network and volunteer.
That's timely advice for any airman. Thank you so much for your time today. As we kind of wrap it up, I just want to open the floor if you have any notable performance experiences or funny stories, anything you'd like to share.
I guess a couple things. I would like to say that 4 of us went through basic training together, B663 guaranteed band. We're all still here. It's me. It's my brother, Senior Master Sergeant Michael Hornbuckle. It's Master Sergeant John Garcia, who's still here with me now at Lackland, and Tech Sergeant Jeremy Martin. So 20 years later, we're still in the Air Force. So it's been great to us. I do remember, I guess one of the coolest moments for me is when I got to talk to the Secret Service for a long time because Dr. Joe Biden and the FLOTUS, Michelle Obama were coming to the island to kick off our heroes. And it was like going back and forth for weeks with the Secret Service. We had to send all this information in, back and forth. And the day of, they finally said, all right, you're going to have 5 minutes to talk to Mrs. Obama. And that was cool because she was more talking about that her kids were missing her because she didn't go on the travel a lot like her husband, the president. So she was trying to get back home, but she was super nice, really nice person, down to earth. That was nice. I guess a funny story, and this happens pretty much our entire life. Since I am a twin, like I say, I would love to be a twin, but I always tell people that's why you're not one, because most people, the world can't handle 2 of most people. But we were stationed together in 2 different spots, Wright-Patterson and at Hickam. And I remember the first couple of weeks I was at Hickam, I think I still was in base lodging. It would happen randomly because he was there first. And somebody said, hey, Hornbuckle, and they would just start talking. And I couldn't remember their name because I was trying to remember what their face looked like, what their story was, so that I can try to relay back to my brother. This person is trying to talk to you, but I have no idea, but I didn't embarrass you. That's pretty much how it went. So, and that happened pretty much anytime that we're around each other. It happens when he went to Senior NCO Academy with a diamond wearer first shirt that I knew from here because I was additional duty first sergeant. And she was down at Maxwell, and she started talking to him. And he goes, I don't know who you are. And he goes, you're probably from Lackland, aren't you? And she said, yes, we talk every week. And so this went on for a couple of days. He finally showed a picture of me and him together, and she finally believed him. But when she got back to Lackland, she told the council, the first thing she said when she stood up after getting back and thanking the group for welcoming her back was, you won't believe how much they look alike. Because most people don't, until you see us together, and you just don't realize that we look that much alike, especially in uniform. Even some of our family members in past have had a hard time telling us apart. So that's some things that you deal with as a twin. But you know what? 47 years later now, used to it.
I was going to say, you started together. Is it a race to see who can stay on longer or get out first?
Boy, I don't know. Whatever the Air Force has for us, and family goes into play at that point. When you start getting, over 20, family makes a big deal. I have a daughter who's a senior, a son who's a freshman. So at some point, my wife will probably say, it's time to hang them up. And I have to hang up my third set of uniforms, from BDUs to ADUs to these OCPs. So my third set of uniform, I hang up at some point. But I don't know, not right now.
Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. It's been fun and enlightening for me. And I wish you a wonderful afternoon and hope to cross paths in the future.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll cross paths somewhere down the road. And if we need a manning assist on trumpet, I'll definitely give you a call.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.